Okay, we are recording.
Um, First
So,
thing I wanted to say was thank you, Sarah.
yeah, I hope that some of those edits are useful. Also, we have to thank Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy.
thank you, Betsy. So was this, I think we talked about this. This is a document that was started by Andy last year, or is this something that's been floating through?
I'm gonna let Betsy answer that if you don't mind, Betsy.
Well, it Andy did not start one last year, though I know he had wanted to. I will just say
Okay.
my only thinking is this document, which we're now calling the member handbook, I'll just obviously pulls from
Yeah,
section B. So we're actually, to the extent we're updating it, we're actually updating section B of the policy manual. Does that make sense? And we're welcome to make what our member handbook say whatever we want, but if it's doesn't match section B, is that making sense?
it does make sense. I mean, it makes sense in the way that, like, this was a conversation last year with principals about handbooks, where Stephen wanted the handbook, like some sort of cleaning up of handbooks. So the handbooks at the school level, like, can't be different from policy substantively, but they can be, like, have more operational things. So I'm not sure that that means, to take it a step further, that I don't think it means that if a handbook is created, that that necessarily goes back to the policy. But I think I
presumed that
understand.
we would essentially B would be replaced and would say repealed for the policy. Done. That's what I was imagining would happen. Or
Okay.
repealed for the handbook. I'm sorry, I can't speak.
And what's the title of section B?
Governance, right? School governance.
Yes, section B is board governance and operations. Can you guys see this?
Mhm.
So I'm looking at the document.
I'm looking at the screen and Betsy pulled it up and just showing
Yeah.
us that. Yeah. Board
So,
governance
this
operations.
is,
So Betsy, are you saying that this thing that's now being called handbook is the totality of section B, or is there stuff in section B that is not also in the handbook?
well, Sarah, now you pulled it over. It looked to me like you kind of brought it all over. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so
Okay.
what this document is it's the text in the document that Betsy sent to me, copied into a new document. And when I checked online, it was identical to what was posted as being our current policy. And then the change that I made to it that I didn't track is every time that there was reference to law, I made it a live link.
And then I'll ask this along the way, but then there were a few places where it says revised policy. Is that altogether new language that is not in B of the policy manual?
So no, my understanding was that those were old notes, and then I thought that that was confirmed by Betsy because she went through and struck all of those from the, deleted them with tracks from the document.
Except that one didn't get deleted where it says
This one
revised
here.
policy. So that's just right up below that where it says revised policy in the heading though, Betsy.
Oh, I now need to go to what you guys are looking at.
Yeah. So if you go back down where you were, Betsy,
Okay, yeah.
see how it says school committee conflict is
Yes,
that
right.
revised policy, right? It's
Right.
it was a little confusing to me. And then I thought, no, that's just something that didn't get scratched out when they were
Okay,
scratching out the
Yes.
policy headings.
okay. That doesn't mean
Um,
something that was just written.
No, I
Okay.
presume it looked like everything that was track changes, like you guys were pretty good about using track changes to show the difference between section B and
Yep.
what you
We were
were
very
picking.
careful to keep all tracked changes there. The only thing was that I did make live links out of the law, the reference to the law.
Which I thought was handy. One of the things I also looked at, not I didn't read the whole thing, but I read, Betsy, that document, the table of contents from the 2003 handbook that you sent us.
Okay.
Do you mind pulling that up on the screen if you have it handy?
Yes, just give me
If
one
not, I
minute. Real
can. I
quick.
think I have it open. Yeah, I do, if you want me to pull it up.
Okay.
So I'm just
I
gonna,
did look back. I know you had asked to see if I could find any notes. I couldn't find anything in the record. There was a workshop that just had like very bare bones minutes that maybe could have covered it, but there was certainly no capturing of a conversation about why it did or didn't, ever get adopted.
so this one I liked the table of contents. It has some of the same things, but it has some additional stuff too. And what I thought might be nice, I mean, some of it's the same and some of it's not. Um, but I like that it talked about like social meetings. It has the section for comportment. Um, it has some other things that I thought were kind of cool. Dealing with the press. Like there's just a lot of really great stuff in here. And so I haven't read what they wrote, and it's interesting. I don't even know who was on school committee in 2003, and I'm not asking you, Betsy, to look it up, but it is curious why they didn't adopt this.
Mhm.
And anyways, I just thought that like this was a great table of contents, like to think about how to chunk what's written in the policy handbook, maybe into some of this structure. Because one of the things I find in the policy handbook, I know that it in theory has structure, but like at least section B feels,
Especially with
I
the
don't know.
redundancies that are in there currently.
Yeah, you even pointed some out. You were like, this is redundant. And I
Yeah.
just feel like that's what happened. It's been written, like obviously, and written and rewritten in chunks over, a long time, we'll say decades. And so maybe this is a chance to like reorganize it too into some of that flow. But I liked that it talked about some of these things. Like again, the handbook talked about like there's social events that we might go to or whatever. And so I liked that like you would never write the fact that there's like social events into the policy manual, but that's important for people to know. Um,
I think that I agree that's more sort of handbooky stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, some of the policy, even not that I mind it, but it not only sort of redundant within, but also like there's an oath and there's statute. So I don't know that that doesn't bother me, but I don't know that we need to then sort of like articulate all of that because it's kind of implied.
Yeah, I
Where
agree. That was
handbook
one
is more like operational.
I was thinking about
This is
that
how it
too.
goes.
I was thinking about that too. Two things I thought about that were one, like if something's happening before someone joins school committee, does it belong in the handbook? Like for example, the 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 oath. That's a great example. Maybe it does. It's not unreasonable, but it was just interesting that some of the things I was like, well, that's a little blurry on like when does it become a handbook thing? And like one other example is like um, if someone leaves the committee, how do new members get selected? I thought like, well, I mean, I guess that's helpful for existing members to know, but
Right.
like, right,
Not handbook so
it's
much.
not
Yeah,
necessarily handbooky.
right.
But then the other thing I was thinking about was it was super handy, Sarah, that you linked the statute. And I thought to myself, but if anything's so important in the statute that we think people should know it, we should probably pull it over, like leave the reference, you're right, but also like the handbook should sort of be like, I'm thinking like written from like a easily understandable perspective as opposed to like now you have to go off and look at like MGL to figure something, you know what I mean? Like
I
it's
think in
like
some
your job,
instances, that's the case. I think that sometimes what it is it makes reference to it as like, this is where we got it from, but then
yeah.
it talks in plain people speak.
And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And I thought that was really, it was like the school committee's jobs are like as outlined in MGL, whatever, 37A. But then wherever I was looking, I don't remember what it was, it didn't say what those things were. And I was like, policy. And I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying like, because it was legacy, like, oh, that would have been a really good place to articulate what those things are. So, and I guess I understand it why policy doesn't, because policy gets refreshed so infrequently and has such a process that it might be more challenging to like, if the MGL changed, then you might not want to, um, it might be more burdensome for the
Yeah.
committee to have to go through that process. But from the handbook perspective, because it doesn't necessarily have the same rules about policy, it might be easier to,
So let me try to say back to the two of you what I think I'm hearing. I think I'm hearing that for this first go around, you appreciated seeing all of the changes. And that there were so many of them that I think that we needed to just deliver back to you as it was. I think that going forward, there's a bit of rewriting that could happen.
Mhm.
And approach that you're suggesting is to go by the table of the contents in order to organize it. But I
Hang on
also
one
think that
second.
further you're suggesting that there is policy and there is handbook. And so maybe what we need to do is go a first round through all of this, and that generates the policy, and then to rewrite it further to make it then kind of user friendly into the handbook and take out the things that aren't needed.
An open question in my mind is, what do we do with the things that we think are policy, but should they stay in policy and not be a handbook?
Can you give an example?
Like the oath. Like, should we retain stubs
And
of
I was thinking
information?
like, I think like open meeting law, conflict of interest, like, I mean, it's fine, but like, you can also just look that up.
Right, and maybe it is that there's like the conflict of interest policy stays in B, and we say you need to read the conflict of interest policy that's in B. Right? Like, I'm just giving, I don't know, I'm mulling it
That
all in
works
my
for
head.
me.
Yeah. Um,
So how do you want to do the intermediate step before we do the rewriting? Would you be willing to accept changes on the document? Because we can still keep the original. We can always refer back to that.
yeah.
And then we'll have the start to something that then needs to be reorganized and rewritten.
In my mind, it would make sense to accept the changes. There was a couple I made comments on, but I think you deleted Robert's Rules of Order, and I just didn't understand why we would delete that because it's helpful for
Because
people to
what
understand.
the way that the statute is written now doesn't refer to Robert's Rule of Order, it refers to parliamentary discussion or something.
Parliamentary practice, but isn't
Practice.
Robert's Rules of Order where that's articulated?
The statute doesn't make reference to it, I don't think, to Robert's Rules of Order.
The statute, like school committee statute in MGL? What
Yeah.
statute? Oh, okay, that's good to know. Okay. So we don't need to say that at all.
That's what I think.
Okay.
And-
Anyway, I was thinking that what might be helpful is if the next draft, like if we accepted the edits and then someone went through and decided what they made recommendations to what they thought could be stay in policy versus live in a handbook.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Or what do
It
you all think?
does, although I'm gonna back up a step, because although all of this makes sense and is useful, and I like that sort of, I haven't looked at it carefully, but the table of contents you referred to from the 2003. But there's some aspects, some spots that I'd want to discuss, like I'm not necessarily agreeing to accept everything that's in this draft.
Mm,
I have questions and discussion points.
And I thought that this meeting would be good for that type of thing.
Yeah, that's what
yes.
I thought too.
Okay.
But process wise, I mean, assuming acceptance of changes or changes to be discussed in terms of process, that makes sense, Mariah.
Okay.
Mariah, do we need permission from policy to be working on this?
That
No.
was another question I just had. Yeah, like, okay.
I guess because we'll propose it to them and they could always say, nope, we're not interested.
Exactly. That's the way I'm thinking about it. Although I guess I could bring it up we have policy on Tuesday, and I could also flag it to Andy before then. But we
Oh.
already talked about this and go ahead, Betsy. Did you
I
already
was just
post
going
the
to say,
agenda?
it's not so much permission, but I do think that we'd want to follow, if we're updating the policy, we would want to follow that procedure, which is to, suggest the changes, and if it goes to policy subcommittee or not, it certainly would need a first and a second reading at school committee just to
Yeah, that
follow.
part of it definitely we would
Yeah.
need to follow, but it's more like this is just a proposal. I'll just say that anyone can make a suggestion of any policy and
Yeah.
make the edits, and it just goes to policy for review. So it's not like policy has to bless someone working on this first.
And then I have a super basic question, just rolling it all the way back. And I'm asking this not because I have a predetermined answer I'm looking for or even know myself, but I'm just to sort of reorient us. So the thinking here is that the purpose of a handbook is like part of an orientation,
Yes.
just handbook, yep. okay.
Yeah. Because I think people come in and like,
There hasn't really been orientation, at least recently.
I'm not sure there was ever an orientation. I don't know. Um, at least in my experience, which was weird because it was COVID, so I won't say it was like normal, but like Suzanne was chair and she said that she asked me at the time, did I want a mentor? And I said no. And I don't remember that, but either way, I probably did say no. Like I don't I don't disbelieve her. But I think that like even if you have your mentor, but no matter what your own level of comfort is with your mentor, it's great to have a written resource,
Yeah.
right? To have that standard. And I know that also, I vaguely recall, Betsy, this wasn't you at the time, it was Robin, but I think I got asked, like, do you want a printout of the policy handbook or something like that? And it was like, and I was like, I can't process like an 800-page book. And so it took me a long time to actually ever get to reading the handbook, or not the handbook, the policy manual, because it's so overwhelming. So if we could give people like that, you know what I mean? Like sort of chunking it as opposed to like it's 800 pages or nothing, like I think that would be helpful.
Agreed.
Betsy, I appreciate you giggling.
Yeah.
It feels overwhelming, right? You're like, oh my God, I have a new email address, and all of a sudden these emails are coming at me, and my calendar's filled with like
Yes.
800 meetings, right? So to the extent we can like step
Totally.
people in gradually, I think that's
Yeah.
healthy.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so this is sort of like the basic.
Exactly. And this might
Oh.
say to you, like, make sure you read the 4 policies that are related to school committee. And by the way, you'll probably want to read the policy manual at some point, but like, whatever, however we decide to frame that. But it does feel scary and overwhelming, that whole book.
Yeah.
Did you all get the policy manual when you
I
first
was just
started?
gonna say, I don't remember, I definitely was never, sorry, instructed, um, like to read the whole policy manual. I just kind of know it's there, and then occasionally I refer to it.
And then
Yeah.
what happened for me is as I was campaigning, I was feeling like, uh-oh, like just that initial call when I was accepted for the vacancy, I kind of felt like, oh no, I shouldn't be promising anything that I can't actually deliver on. So I read it prior to being on the school committee because I was like, what is this job about? Like, what am I signing up for?
So, do you guys want to go through? So I'm not super coordinated here because, so I downloaded the tracked changes so that I could make my own comments for myself if I had them.
Mm-hmm.
Mariah, like, and so Sarah, is it safe to assume that what's here is all you favor everything that's on the page, you don't have further comments? And then Mariah, did you have places?
Yeah, I did have a couple places where
Okay.
and it's not to say I caught them all because I've had a crazy week. So I
Yeah,
literally
I
looked at
think
this 15 minutes ago.
I
So
think I still
Yeah.
probably have further things, but it got to be kind of full at one point, and so I
yeah.
stopped there.
Okay, good. So I think we're all sort of on the same page because I did sort of some, but not all. Like I'm sure there's more.
are we comfortable with like accepting some of these, like, we'll add Brookline School Committee and member to this? Like, can I just go through and accept some of them, like as we're going? Like,
Yep.
or like show you what's up on the screen and then we can comment on it. Like, I'm just thinking there's 23 pages. If we can go like, okay, does anyone have any issues with what's shown here? And then we can keep going.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yep.
I kind of know the first place I have. Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'm okay with everything I'm just gonna accept them now. And of course, I can always undo. Let me see, check language around hiring. Um,
I was just going to check, and I haven't yet, I think the school committee has authority to hire the school business officer and the top special education staff person, which,
Correct.
so it's
It's not this was what the wording that's here. This is not
It's
right.
right. You've
It's
got
the
more,
business officer, the business manager, and the student services director. It's
Right.
not.
What's the language again? It's like.
Isn't it right there at
Approved.
59? If you click
Yeah.
on 59,
Let's see what it says.
and I think section
principals.
41 is the school business administrator, and then section 3A is the administrator of special education. Then the others are back to section 59, which is the recommendation of.
There's so many sections. So which one is business administrator?
I think
41?
41.
Oh my God, there's so many.
So you've got a little bit more authority than the current wording shows there. I think, again, the school business officer is your domain. The
Well,
administrator.
let's not dwell on it. I think it's just
Yeah.
we'll leave this comment for now and we'll keep going and get
Okay.
that sorted out.
Might be
Um,
easier to find in mask.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because I'm sure that I was thinking about this
Right.
exact thing is like, did you ever check, Sarah? Does Mask have a draft handbook? Oh, maybe she's on a call. Betsy, do you know if she did?
No, I don't know.
Okay,
Good question.
yeah. Um,
So, and sorry, because I have I'm just.
yes, I'm just stopping at this page. Go ahead.
sorry,
I'll
it's
tell you,
gone for a
my
second.
That's okay. My first comment comes after replacement of officers. So, okay, I'm at the same place you are.
So this one I flagged because I don't think this is true, at least currently. I filed a recall warrant article several years ago that I ended up withdrawing. But I'm pretty sure that this never came up, and as far as I know, has no legal basis. So that might have been true pre ed reform, but I don't think it's true now. So I
So
just think we should
can
double
it be
check.
resolved by deleting that sentence, or does it need to be rewritten?
It could be deleted. I just was like surprised to read it. If it's true,
Yeah.
I would love to know it. That's all. I just wrote what's the legal justification. I think we can look it up a little bit more later on.
Okay, so just flag that for now.
Yeah, I just flagged it for now.
As
And yours
yet
was
to be
replacement of.
tested.
Yeah. Well, if you recall, I'll just remind that, well, I don't know if all of you recall, but there was a select board member who ended up resigning from office, and it's not that he was convicted, but certainly there was a question about like what was going on, or resigned as chair, did not resign from office. So there's like, anyways, and there's a lot of case law about some of this stuff. So I'm surprised to hear it written here. Anyways, doesn't matter. We'll come back to it and figure it out later. You had replacement of officers as a question?
No.
Oh, below this?
Yeah.
Okay, let me keep going then.
So.
And
yeah.
just to be clear, just because we're not, like, all we're doing now is accepting changes, but we
okay.
can always, of course, tweak wording or add stuff or whatever later on too.
So
Like,
do you want to only accept changes, or if people have, like, I have a few questions and comments in this whole section. So do you guys want to?
that's fine too. I guess
Okay.
my point was just that like, this isn't the like speak now or forever hold your peace moment. We're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get lots of other bites at the apple.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
go ahead. Is now here or somewhere else?
Yeah, so school committee member code of conduct, new policy. So I think because of sort of there's the wording in here, some of it is like, this is an overall, some of it is like you don't do this and don't do that, which is always sort of maybe tricky way to
Mhm,
frame things in a handbook. And
mhm.
then, but my sort of overall question is like, what is trying to be accomplished here? And then this is where my first, like, the oath of office of a school committee member binds the individual. I don't know, this was one where I was like, that, like,
Where's that part? The oath of office bit?
the second sentence,
Oh,
the
the second
acceptance of a
sentence, sorry.
code of conduct implies the understanding of the basic organization of school committees under the laws of the I'm a little lost here. Sort of what is someone trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
I'm not
Also,
sure the
like,
organization of school committees statutorily, does it have code of conduct stuff? And then is the oath of office redundant?
This
Does it?
is pretty standard. It's written from the MASC, and it's a lot of different school committees lifted completely. So to me, this is something that you would want in your handbook.
well, and I remember Dimitri rewrote something else a couple years ago. Betsy, do you remember what I'm talking about? That was a code of conduct that we had adopted.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. And I,
So, Sarah, while you were gone for a minute, Mariah asked about mask. So it sounds, so now you weren't here for that question, but it sounds like you just answered it.
Yeah, so Mariah, what was your question?
my question was just, does MASC have a draft handbook, and did you get like, do you know if they have a draft handbook we could essentially adopt?
Yeah, so for the code of conduct, they have exactly what this is. And you're, allowed to lift it, and many school communities do. They do have this.
But they don't have a whole thing,
You know what it
handbook.
for
I've got Friday
policy.
afternoon brain, just so you know.
For policy, of course, you have to, pay to get, everything if you want to change your policy. But for the the handbook, this is kind of what they're offering, this section that's on code of conduct. Why don't we go there right now to that website so you can see exactly where it's from?
Sure.
I'm gonna just stay here because this is us. I mean,
Well, I'm just seeing like,
yeah.
so it says, oh, member handbook, introduction,
Challenging.
challenge, areas of responsibility. Oh, so this is kind of interesting.
Sorry, this is meant to be a school committee member handbook.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of it like historical background, I'm not sure we need to go all the way back to the Mass Bay Colony. Like we might be able to stop more recently in time, but I think I like I like the challenge and think about the areas of responsibility and visits to schools, citizen complaints, legal requirements for meetings, the roles.
You're a fast reader.
I'm not, I'm just skimming the headlines. Sorry. I'm just, yeah, looking at if
What's
it's big, if it's big
What's
and
nice
blue.
about it is it's all updated, whereas some of our stuff is outdated at this point, which we
Yeah.
could update ourselves. What they have here is all current.
So did you read through this and take some of this and put it into the new thing, or you weren't going that far?
I've read through all of this and I didn't include everything. I just noted so I was kind of trying to stay true to the writers who had made the handbook in the past, or the
So
section B
this
in the
they
past.
call code of ethics. Ours says code of conduct.
Yeah. Which is different for sure.
Yeah.
So what I did when I was updating was I tried to stay true to what was already there. And we could decide that it doesn't matter to us the different pieces that were voted in, and we want to make a new suggestion. And if we do that, we could use the MASC words.
Can I ask a question for my own understanding? So this section was not marked as new, only this bit is. Was it here in the section, was it in policy B before, or was it new and you added it without marking it up?
I'm so sorry. Something else is going on. Could you say
Okay.
that again?
Yep, so this section was in here and it was not, it's not marked as a change, like you hadn't used track changes for it. Was
Yeah,
that because
it was there prior.
okay, it was there prior. That's what I was just wanting to clarify. Thank you.
And this code of conduct, just looking back at section B, was from, let me just look here, from 2005. So the
Draft.
school committee member code of conduct was parentheses new policy in 2005. So
Okay.
But sorry, and is this part of B or this is only part of the draft handbook?
It was
No.
in B. She
It
said it
was
was already
from
in
B.
B.
Yes.
Okay, okay, great.
Copied over from B as, again, part of our policy manual.
Betsy, do you have the wording that Dimitri did for us a while ago?
No, that's why I was looking at, I thought, was there something new? Definitely nothing was ever voted
It
in.
was not voted into policy. Let me see if
Okay.
I can find it in my email. I see Val is on too.
With a little,
Val.
I can't find it now, but with a little digging, I'm sure I can find it. So you think Dimitri worked on some code of
He
conduct
worked on
revision?
a wording and it was adopted by the committee.
Dimitri was before my time, Mariah.
Was he? Okay. My God.
Do you remember liking it?
Yeah, we voted for it. It was good.
The school committee voted for it?
Mm-hmm,
So
we
that
did. Dimitri left in 2021.
So
And he started, I
Robin would,
think, I only have emails from him starting in September of 2020.
he wasn't on the school committee very long.
No,
It really pays to save all your emails, Mariah. This comes up again and again.
it does. I don't delete anything unless it's spam.
It's a
I pay
good
my
way of
extra money
operating.
for my private Google account too, just so I can send you all Andrew Bott's missives from 2018.
Appreciate it.
So this section, and sorry, Mariah, I know
Yeah.
you're looking for something,
I
but
couldn't
you were
find it.
saying, so, so Mask calls it ethics, and I'd have to sort of look at what they have there. So I didn't fully understand this, like, maybe someone can explain. The acceptance of a code of conduct implies the understanding of the basic organization of school committees. Like,
Yeah, I didn't
there
understand
I'm
it
a
either.
little lost.
Me too.
Okay, good. Not just me.
No.
Code of conduct delineates 3 areas of responsibility. That just seems like 3, I don't know, like why aren't we just saying there are 3 areas of I don't quite get that either. Like a code of conduct to me is like behave a certain way, which is, I mean, responsible, that's like part of responsibility in a general way, but I think of responsibility as sort of an operational thing. So the wording here confused me.
I think that I'm sorry to interrupt. I think his norms might have made it into our communication document. Betsy. If we look at norms, goals, and resources, is it this? No. Sorry to interrupt. I was just excited, but I'm
That's
wrong.
okay.
Robin was very
Uh,
careful about anything that got approved, you
yeah,
know, putting it in the manual. So, and even by year, she
it
would
was
put,
not for the manual. It was not a manual document.
I see.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I'm looking for it. I know it exists somewhere. Okay. So I'm just noting Val sent us an email in May. And it was from you, Betsy, norms goals, the most recent are norms. It says, Dr. Liu shared the draft Brookline School Committee norms and blah, blah, roles and norms, attachment J. Draft is based on the current school committee roles and norms approved in January 2021. That's the ones that we're talking about. So, and it would be folded in. So now I want to go back to January 2021. Bear with me here. Okay. January 2021. And it was on our agenda for January 21st, 2021. Is that helping you, Betsy? Are we gonna find this?
Yeah, so let me, January.
Draft 121 record. I'm going back to my archive in my Google Drive. 2021, 2022 school committee meetings.
What was the date again, right? January 21st,
I think
2021?
so, yeah. It's not there. Shared with me.
All right, so I think I found it. Let me. Can you see this now?
Yes, that's it.
Yep.
Brava.
So it was voted that night, January 21st, 2021. So what's hard though, because this was a standalone, right? Like we've sort of
I'm
lost it.
sorry, Rita's losing a tooth right now. I need to step away for a minute. I'll be right back.
Mhm.
Betsy, would you go on to say what you have to say?
Just because it's not in the manual, it's a standalone. It's almost like a little orphan, right? To the extent we do something new, we want to, I think, fold it into the manual so that we don't lose track of it.
Fold it into policy, into section B.
Potentially if you want, right? I mean, otherwise,
I mean, I guess what I feel like I'm hearing from Carolyn and Mariah is that there's two separate reasons to have a handbook and to have a policy,
mhm.
and they read differently. So there's some things that are connected in each of them. So I could see that rules and norms could be language for a handbook.
Was there a second part of that?
Yeah, no, sorry, that rules and norms could be a section in a handbook and not appear in policy.
Right.
And that's probably fine too. If we do have a handbook, at least it would be sitting somewhere where we wouldn't lose track of it. That's all.
And that was the original idea. Again, like last year when we talked about this document was sort of, we had this. Then we started creating the communication norms. Then the idea was there was going to be a handbook that was going to bring this all together, and Andy
Right,
didn't
right,
have the
right,
chance
right,
to do the handbook.
right.
Um,
So I'm sorry, because while people were looking for things that I didn't know what they were looking for, my mind went away. So
Mm.
this document that's now on Betsy's screen, on our screen,
yeah.
what's this document?
So this was voted in January 2021. There was at the time just sort of we had no norms about how we should all work together. Like, I think
So is this what's in our, but this is not, if I go onto like our Google Drive where there's some like communication norms, this is yet a different.
that's the communication norms is about not how we talk with each other, but we were really talking
Oh,
about like
right. That's right.
email and like not
Yeah.
overstepping in our roles
Okay,
and that sort of
so
thing. So
this is something yet again.
this is about internal communication among the committee and all this other stuff. But this is the point is to like, I think the point you're making is it's a little bit scattered and we were trying to pull things together.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I
also,
remember this. We talked about this last year.
yeah, we talked about
remember
it. Yeah.
debate where because the a school committee meeting is a meeting that is held in public, not a public meeting. I remember some response to that last year.
So I think again, I find this very valuable. We did vote it in 2021, and I just want to highlight like that no matter like that the current composition of the committee and communication challenges or successes that we have, none of that is particularly new or old, in my opinion. There's a lot of like, right, this is like a legacy issue of how do we talk to each other? How does the superintendent engage with the committee and the committee with the
Right.
superintendent and with staff? Like, there's lots of different stuff. So you can see like literally
Yeah.
there, that although paragraph, it's not new about us funneling it directly to the superintendent
Yeah,
with the subcommittee
yeah.
chairs. This is
So
old stuff.
although I can't read because I can't control this document right now, just as it's being skimmed, what I see on the page, and this is not definitive, I'm just kind of like shooting from the hip here. But I think that kind of language, and especially given that it's already been adopted, I'm guessing is going to end up making more sense for me than at least some of, if not all of, what's in and sort of the approach or what's covered or tried to be covered in this section, school committee code of conduct, where sort of in each section I had questions. So, and it felt a little, I don't know, like, I feel like the language in our document, that this rules and norms
I'm so
feels a
glad to hear
little more
that.
handbooky,
Yeah.
but I'm just, or maybe it ends up being, there may be pieces of this code of conduct that people feel strongly about, that they're committed to.
I think it's helpful to provide the code of conduct as almost a reference of MASC, like we've drafted it this way. I'm not saying that this is going to
Mm.
remain intact, the 2021.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saying- And MASC provides this, and like some people may resonate with one, the other both. Like I think there's
Yeah.
something there in both of them. So I don't know that it has to be one or the other.
No, and I'm not saying like strike all of this. It
Yeah.
just, given that I have, like, I don't even fully understand. Like her responsibility, primary responsibility is to all the children. I don't know, to me, I'm just like, all the children. And then I think, I don't really, and then it goes on to say represents the entire Brookline community at all times. So I don't know, it's sort of philosophical.
I don't know. I mean, that to me seems pretty, those ones seem pretty straightforward, right? Like we can't be operating in our small group of self-interest or, some niche group self-interest.
Is that what you read by all the children?
That's what I read by all the children, and that's what I read by the entire Brookline community. I don't know, Sarah, is that how you read that too?
I do, and I think it's an important point. Can you send this to us or post it somewhere?
I'll send it to everybody,
Thank you.
right after the meeting. Is that okay?
Maybe it's
Yeah.
just the sort of all the children. It sounds a little sort of like feed the childrenish to me. Like, I guess it just like, does that mean all students in the district?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, so all the children, does that include?
So I think you
Your
pointed out
entire
sort of funny
school?
wording both on this one and on the MASC version of this. So I could go with us or me editing this document or editing the other one, but I would keep that idea, right? Is that the school committee is here to look at, here to serve students.
And that's actually the very first bullet in ours, as you see too. We're representing the needs and interests of all students in the district.
All
Mhm.
students in the district is
Right.
language that makes more sense to me than all the children. That's all.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And it's
agree.
funny
I totally
because
agree.
I think that I don't know if that's a more modern thing because there's a lot of older stuff in policy I've seen which refers to children, which I've also replaced with students because I'm like, it's just, I don't know, like they're students in this context, I guess is the way I
And
think about it.
actually, some of our students are adults.
There you go. That's right.
Um,
Good point.
because we serve through 21, 22.
22. Yeah, it's a great point.
And my child will always tell you, as of her bat mitzvah, she was an adult.
There you go.
Um,
So do we want to go back to the working document? I can pull it back up again. Thank you so much, Betsy, for finding it. I liked how we tag teamed into figuring out where it was.
I know I can reach out to you for my archiving needs.
Yeah, I think I want your emails too.
That's actually crazy because it's one of the things that like worries me in some way. Betsy, do they save our emails anywhere? Because there's a lot of good stuff there.
I think they're all searchable, yes.
Okay, but like
yeah.
how could anyone find them? How would anyone be able to search them? Like a normal school committee member. Like after the fact, if someone was like, Mariah, where's blah, 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 I wouldn't be able to access it anymore,
That's a good point.
right?
could do
Yeah.
a public records request.
I guess, but that seems inefficient for another member of school committee to have to public records request, especially when I would give it to you freely. And actually, Helen kept her email because she's still a member of the building committee, and I thought that's so smart because there was something I needed, and she
Oh,
was able to
yeah.
get it for me. Okay, so we're gonna put, I think, this whole session aside for now. In that, like, yes, there's funky wording. Sarah, you're going to adjust this wording?
Sure.
Okay.
I didn't really know if I was able to do that before. I would have liked to have already done it.
Yeah.
So I can update the wording, but the ideas in this section are very important to me.
Okay.
So the final bullet in the first one, accept
Yeah.
the office of committee member as a means of unselfish service with no intent to play politics in any sense of the word or to benefit personally from committee activities. Sarah, is that something you wrote new?
No, that was something that was left off of from the MASC language, and I didn't know why we didn't include it.
Probably it was added later, maybe?
I guess
Yeah.
this one too, like I'm just being on, like some of these are just sort of vexing and perplexing to me. Like I don't really know whoever wrote that. I'm sort of like, what are you driving at? Like it strikes me as something, especially where it's written in a like, don't do something. It it strikes me or feels to me like someone has something specific in mind that they're trying to prevent or control or refer to, and I don't know what it is. And I don't really understand what the term play politics means. I think there's a lot of interpretation in this one, and the language is is pretty strong. So do you guys
Well,
have
I think
sort
that
of,
for people, and again, thinking about this as written for an entire state 20 years ago,
yeah,
I think that my interpretation of this is that there are people who could come onto a committee with the idea of wheeling and dealing, or somehow as it being a stepping stone to a larger thing. They're there to sort of do to grandstand on things and perhaps to make points that maybe aren't relevant to school committee, but they're looking for a larger platform, and this is a way to get a message out about something else
oh,
and as part of a larger political career. And that's how I interpret this about
Oh.
playing politics and benefiting personally.
uh,
As well as, for example, say I think that benefiting personally to me specifically, there's another context of it of conflict of interest, which is already addressed separately. So that's why I presume it has to do
right.
with political aspirations and
Oh.
career. I don't know. Sarah, is that your interpretation of that as well?
Yeah, that's really well said. And it does tie into the idea of the school committee being there for all students. So it kind of goes back to our prior conversation about it. If every decision that the school committee makes is in service to student outcomes, to, students being able to improve their educational outcomes, make progress over time, then that really, and it's not special interests, that really focuses the school committee work. And so I guess that's why I stand by this so much, is that it's really important that the conversation is put to new members so that they kind of understand their role. I guess what we're afraid of is people could be very aligned with specific groups. They could have special interests in specific groups that they were trying to represent. And the way that MASC described the school committee role is you're voted in by constituents, but you're voted for your ability to look at issues and evaluate things for the student. So at the point that you show up to school committee, the work that you're doing is in service to student education.
Sure, but of course, people, I mean, you've talked about that you ran because of world language, right? So that was an interest of
Yeah,
yours. Like,
that Andy
there's interest.
that Andy hammered out of me as soon as I showed up. The very first time I met with Andy, he was like,
My
this is
point
not a
is just
place.
that we all have things that we're interested in and things that we know about. And I don't know, it just, this wording here, like unselfish service, it just seems a little open to interpretation.
No,
And
but it's super important that everybody leaves those things at the door, in order to be in service to the education of students.
yes, and I assume, again, this goes back to my notion of collegiality. Like, I assume we're all grown-ups and we're colleagues and give each other the benefit of the doubt. So I guess this wording sort of goes against my interest in giving colleagues the benefit of the doubt, that like it would never occur to me to sort of have to look at someone and say like, you're too selfish, or you should be it's not how I think. It's confusing to me. So Mariah, your explanation of like the idea that someone would run as a stepping stone makes sense. I don't know, it just feels a bit pedantic.
I
Um,
think sometimes things feel pedantic, but they need to be said because we're not all operating under the same,
Yeah,
sort of like, I'll give another example. There was, and this is like completely different, but it was really interesting to me that the enrollment report, when there was like a gray box on, this was the last year one, about like a gray box about, oh, this class only had, this grade in whatever school only had 3 sections, and then there was 2 sections in a gray box. There were people who read that and thought it meant there was an empty classroom sitting there because there was only 2 sections of whatever class in grade whatever at whatever school. And what was really interesting to me is that never would have occurred to me. And it just like it exposed to me where my own assumptions and blind
oh
spots
yeah,
were, right? Of like, oh, that doesn't mean that. But they didn't realize that. And like now I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how they thought that because it wasn't explicit. To the extent we can make things explicit and help make sure we're not assuming anyone understands that, I think it's really important. And for people who do want to, there could be people who legitimately
yeah,
want a political career and are starting at school committee. Rock on, but like your work
Yeah.
on the school committee isn't going to be like exclusively focused on this, playing politics thing, right? Like, they might do that, but like keep the school committee work clean, so to speak. So I think that's I think it's valuable to not think, to identify where we may not all have the same underlying assumptions and try and be explicit. But I
Cool.
totally agree with you, just to finalize that some of the wording here is odd and we could probably tweak it and make it better. And I appreciate, Sarah, you thinking about what that could be.
And segueing from that, the section responsibility to school administration, I feel like there's places here where, does it mean? So chief administrator, would that be superintendent of schools?
That's a good question. I think it is the superintendent of schools, but I don't know what the rest of that means.
When I read that, I was thinking of our little chart where we have like, if the issue is about this, go to this person. Key administrator being the person that corresponds.
But like act only on the recommendation, like what would that mean in matters of employment? Because we don't employ or dismiss people, except for the 2 people who are under our purview, and we don't dismiss them, we just hire them. But if that person, let's say we wanted to hire someone and Bella said no, does this line mean we could never, we have to absolutely like go along with what Bella says? I just don't quite understand. I don't understand if that's what it means.
Elsewhere, when that's referred to, it says, with reasonable support to the superintendent. I think that the document is trying to say that, certainly there will be times when the school committee needs to not agree with the superintendent, but in order to get the whole system to work well, if to the extent possible, we can support the will of the superintendent, that's when it functions well.
But that's the next bullet down. To me, the third bullet is a weird way of saying the fourth bullet.
So that seems like a redundancy to you.
It does a little bit
Can you
like,
can you flag that?
yeah.
Thanks.
Do you agree, Carolyn, that it's sort of like the next one down is that it's saying they're supposed to do their job and we hold them responsible for it, which is like our number one responsibility. Carolyn, are you talking? Because you're on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Generally, yes. I
Okay.
think 3 is implied in 4.
I don't also understand necessarily what the second half of 2 means.
I was just gonna say the same
Yeah.
thing. And
Like-
again, it might just be that the language is sort of refuse to act upon complaints as an individual. Yeah, I'm kind of like, all these sort of don't things make me go like,
What I,
Like,
what I,
what is
what I,
that?
the
What would it
one that
be?
I like is the fifth one. It says refer all complaints to the administrative
Yeah.
staff for a solution. Like,
Yeah,
yes, I'm not even sure about the only discuss them at committee meetings if such
agree.
solutions fail. Like, to me, it should just be the first half of 5 and can too.
I agree.
Okay, what do you think about that, Sarah?
Yeah, you know, I don't want it, when we were discussing before, you know, whether whether this is kind of needed information. I wanted to mention that some different people have different styles. And I feel a little bit guilty doing this to Donna because she's not here to say what she feels herself. But she always says to us, like, make sure that when you have messages, they're direct and they tell me what you want without anything hidden. And I think that trying to spell it out in multiple bullet points was trying to get at that style of communication, is to get to all of it. But I think the two of you have a style of communication where you're like, got it already, you know, don't need anything more on that.
I just
But
really don't know what some of this means.
I also actually, some of them, I think that they mean that they counteract each other in a little bit. Like this idea of the second half, they're only discuss them at committee meetings if such solutions fail. Like, well, but that's going against the first half of that. Like, if the administrative staff are supposed to come up with it for a solution, then it's not our job to bring it up at a committee meeting. Like, because we're not going to come up with the solution because we're not staff. Or our solutions may be based only partially in the reality of the administration of a school district. I mean, to me, it all comes down to the responsibility to the school administration is like, we are supposed to hold, it's the third bullet. She's supposed to sort it all out. The superintendent's supposed to sort it all out, and we are supposed to hold her responsible.
Okay, definitely flag that. Say, third bullet, you know, says what's needed here.
But I also, I mean, don't get me wrong, the first one too, I just don't like, I think that the things we said already are what I like. So I don't like, I don't think we should do this. And this one, I don't even know what an individual outside the administration means because depending on whose definition you're talking about, we are in the administration and that we are an official of the, like we're an elected official who is a part of the agency. So to me,
Yeah, you know,
that wording is confusing. That's why I
I
would get rid of
think
it.
I think that that tries to get at the idea of operating on one's own accord as opposed to working with others.
I think so, but that is also already addressed in referring it to the administrative staff for a solution and having Bella do it. Like that to me, and that's why I just find it confusing. Refuse, like if someone comes up to me and says, PSB has done blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say to them, I refuse to act upon this. I'm going to say to them, like, you should talk to have you talked to your teacher? You should talk, I'm going to sort of hear it and say, like, this is
Yeah.
where it goes. I'm not going to say, I refuse, right? Like, to me, that's what I don't like. It's like the refusing language. Like, my action will be appropriate, but it's not going to be a refusal because then I wouldn't be doing my job. I like it's sort of like we have this public service job too that I think is important. But like that and that is recognized and supporting the administrative chain of command, but it's not refusing. Like there's different things there.
You make me want to go to the other document now, the Dimitri document,
Yeah.
and see if there's some wording there. So I'll do that. We don't
Yeah,
have to.
well, and yeah, and again, these might not be, they were both drafted in their own ways and they can speak to different people. So I don't think we need to necessarily merge them, but like,
Yeah, I just can't do this here with that at that
totally.
small of a font. I have to.
I can make it bigger too. Yes, Rita, did it fall out?
Bathroom emergency.
Oh,
Both of the bathrooms are occupied and I need to poop.
oh, sorry. Ask Dad. Sorry. Rita hasn't had a moment on the recorded Zooms for a while, so now we got one. Okay. So did you have anything under this third area?
Let's see. Da, da, da. recognize, oh yeah. Recognize that action at official meetings is binding and that he alone cannot bind the committee outside of such meetings. Again, this one, I'm just like, what would that be? I don't, it's like, I'm not sure I'm offended by it. I just don't even understand what that means.
I felt like I needed that message a little bit when I started answering emails is, just make sure not to promise anything because you're one person.
Oh.
I think that too, and not only that,
Um,
even if the committee, um, even if you're at like a meeting of the committee, and even if the subcommittee votes something, it hasn't bound the whole committee. I actually I would even say, like, that's really what it is, which is like one member cannot act unilaterally. And even if one member like talks to staff, like their word is only, it's like, it's not the committee's word, it's one individual's word.
Sure.
Yeah, so
So
I
I
think
guess
that's really
this is
important.
just another one where for me, it's sort of like, well, yeah.
Right.
But, I mean, again, this doesn't sort of like offend me. I just didn't understand it. And then I get this too. I highlighted these and I have to think back to what it was I was thinking when I highlighted them. Uphold the intent of executive sessions. To me, that goes without saying. That's part of open meeting law. I don't care if it's here, but it seems sort of like, of course. Likewise, not withhold pertinent information.
This one I have questions about
Sorry.
because school committee, like personnel problems is a very broad subject that we cannot talk about as a group under like open meeting law and executive sessions. There's so many rules about this.
Yeah.
To me, there could be pertinent information about personnel problems, for example, that we cannot discuss with other committees, that we cannot discuss within our own committee because of the case of them. So to me, it should be not withholding.
Yeah.
This really should, to me, goes to our responsibility to the superintendent, and it should be not withholding pertinent matters to the superintendent. But our own committee, this is quite fraught due to open meeting law.
Not withhold pertinent information on school matters. Yeah. Maybe seeking help and information. Yeah, and also I guess, again, maybe because this is sort of mask language, so maybe it's just, maybe what I'm seeing is this, the language is kind of different from the kind of language we typically use. Like, not withhold information who may be seeking help and information on school problems, and yet, like, we're typically supposed to refer stuff and not get involved in stuff. But like if somebody came with something egregious, some kind of civil rights violation or other, yeah, I
What
guess.
if we were to rephrase this as like district matters rather than school or personnel? Because like I'm just give me like 1 sec. District matters either from members of their own committee or members of other committee who may be seeking help and information about district help or like on district matters. I didn't spell district right here, but I'm just thinking like it can be top level stuff. We're just not wading into like school operational issues and like staff stuff.
So what do you think this sort of refers to? Again, so I've become like, not withhold is a very broad, like, it just, so these instructions make me feel like I'm gotta look around and be like, how broad is not withhold? Like,
Yeah.
That's
a tall order.
But
As
doesn't that just
opposed
work
to
into the idea of like the,
fair,
you know,
relevant.
right. When I say not withhold pertinent information, I think about the idea of like no surprises, right? When people come to school committee member meetings, they need to be versed in what the issues are, not having deliberated, you know, but should there be something that you need to know in order to participate that evening, you should have that information.
I
I
also-
was reading this,
The Warriors
sorry.
as they are.
Soccer.
Wait, who's playing? This is soccer, right? Okay.
Yeah.
My
uh,
daughter is at Concord Carlisle. She drove out with her
Yeah,
friends.
yeah. So they just, Brookline just scored
Oh, good.
early on. Okay, thank you, Sarah. So definitely for me, provide pertinent is more helpful than not withhold. Maybe this says something about my character. All of these sort of don't things, I'm like, am I doing that? It from
I
members. of
think to me, the provide pertinent information as opposed to not withhold it is
Yeah.
like, imagine somebody, I don't know, like if you get an inkling of it, it's like you have this obligation to immediately give them like this data download of everything you know. Whereas providing it is more, I don't know, to me, it feels a little bit different. It does feel affirmative too. So like,
What would
and
be an example? And again, I don't, I'm perfectly happy to leave it, but like,
You know, like if I walk into a situation of the 9 members and people have a way that they're going to vote about something because they have a way of thinking about it that they've discussed with each other, they can't share that with me because, you know, we can't deliberate. But if I, you know, if everything isn't straightforward when I'm making the decision with the group, I'm at a disadvantage to making the best decision.
okay, so that's super, like, when I'm reading this, I was reading it as like, I guess because it did say, no, this one did, yeah, it did say personnel, like, someone tells me about something that happened at a school, like a parent tells me, and then it becomes an issue that I know the superintendent is looking at, like, I was reading it not as like committee deliberations, but just like, when do you sort of,
well, and that's the way it was originally written. I think that's what's throwing me off too. I was like, ah, this gets so messy so quickly. We're
Yeah.
not supposed to talk about this stuff. So why is it, telling us that we're supposed to tell each other? I think the things I was thinking about is like, imagine this is like maybe a dumb example, but the way it's written now is like, we're considering some sort of policy, and one of us happens to know that like about to be a bill filed in the legislature that would do the same thing or that would supersede what we're doing. That would be pretty pertinent information for us to share with each other to make sure that we're like, so that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that seems like a very obvious example, but there could be some that are more subtle that's like, I don't know, imagine someone talked to, I don't know, Anthony Meyer, and he was like, at the high school we were thinking about X, but we decided it wasn't feasible because of Y. Well, then we shouldn't do a policy that says to do X because, and obviously we would consult with Anthony anyway. I'm trying to but that kind of thing. Like if we know that there's some sort of issue here, some sort of context that would be important, we should provide it rather than having the committee do something that then looks foolish or ill-advised in retrospect.
Uh-huh. Um,
And similarly for other committees, right? Like if advisory or something is asking for some sort of or
Yeah.
thinking about something, we should reach out and say, you should know blah, 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 right? So that's what I'm thinking about it.
and so, and all of this is fine, and I don't want to, we don't need to belabor this too much. I mean,
Too
that's,
late. It was not you individually, it was all of us. Okay, so committee conflict of interest, we'll
let me go back to my,
read that later on.
I gotta go back to my,
Betsy just deleted out some of the policy language.
let me just,
Um,
I had this, what did I have here? Sorry, in school committee member conflict of interest. Oh, I think I was wondering, so in the end of the first paragraph, school committee member conflict of interest. School committee specifically recognizes and endorses the following supplemental provisions. Are those, I'm assuming those are supplemental in statute to 268A? I was just wondering sort of where these came from, what these are. Are these like ours or are these?
Shall we
Let's find
go
out.
to
No, let's not do it now.
268A?
We're never gonna end and I've gotta hang up in like 15 minutes.
I know these are really hard parenting hours. I keep on getting distracted by things.
Double check if this is already incorporated. Yeah, the wording's a little confusing of like,
Yeah,
we're
like-
endorsing it. It's like, but is it already there? In which case, whatever, yeah.
It's just like the Massachusetts Conflict of Interest Law and its supplemental provisions governs the conduct of school committee members might be sufficient. I just was
Okay,
wondering.
I'll take a look at that.
One of the things I'm really intrigued about is this here. The school committees, speaking of like, this is an archaeological expedition into school committee activities. It says these policies are based on the document rules of the school committee. So did they have Betsy, did they have a prior rules of the school committee that then turned into policy?
You know, I would have to check 1960. That's really
Ooh,
I'm just curious, like, what else was that, if it's even findable? But I'm
It-
just
it
curious
def-
about like, what was in that? And did they then decide that it should be policy? And if so, why?
It definitely needs to be taken out though, in any case, because it's so far from what we're doing now.
Yes, exactly. And it sounds like you think this is duplicative and that's fine. And I do think it makes sense to just talk generally about how we're organized and you have agenda. I'm sure that's fine. Do you not want to keep the word docket, Betsy, or like teach people sometimes referred to as the docket?
Well, you know, it's funny, we always called it the docket, and
Yeah.
before we had our new system of posting through the town's site, we would create it was just a Word document and it was called a
Yeah.
docket. When I post them now, it just spits out as an agenda. So I feel funny calling it a docket when it says right at the top, agenda. I love the word docket, so I feel like it's getting lost, but it just makes it look like I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, what is she talking about? It's, you know, like, but it used to be a
But we
docket,
still
like,
call it, and you call it docket prep or whatever, right? Docket meeting?
yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, it's now when it just spits out of the town system, which is great, but that's the one thing, it's just called an agenda. But I do feel like we're losing a little bit of something that made it feel special. I don't know. like,
Yeah.
what,
This is handy.
I think I stopped at a certain point near here, I'll admit.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm becoming a little uncomfortable.
Well, we can wrap this up in like 2
No.
seconds. I think we need to do
And
that.
I'm constantly uncomfortable, so.
Yep.
So sorry to hear.
Ah.
I think I really have gotten what I need, though, from both of you. So it's very helpful. And should we need to, we could end now, Mariah.
Okay. Is most of the rest of it's just like cleanup, right? I mean, that's what it's.
This was very productive
Yeah.
for even
Yeah.
start.
It was a good start.
It is a good start, and I think again, most of this, like if you're saying it's deleted, it's just like some word cleanup and like modernizing it to whatever's actually happening right now, which is great. So are you going to, so just so I'm confirming, you're gonna go through Sarah or Carolyn, who was gonna go through and decide what should be policy and what should be.
I'm going to go through and do the edit because what I thought would be the first step would be to contain this document. And then the second step is to separate out what makes sense in a handbook.
Okay.
So I think the rewriting happens as a first step.
And then there's the sort of folding in. I'm thinking about the Schitt's Creek. Did you guys watch Schitt's Creek? The
Yes.
fold in the cheese.
Yes. Folding.
That'll
I
make
don't
it-
know how to fold. What does folding mean? The whole
Fold
scene,
it-
Sarah. You need to
fold it
watch
in.
it. Fold it in.
Fold in
What
the
does it
cheese.
mean? They don't know how to cook at all, is the
Um, folding in the one that you brought up during this
Yeah.
meeting.
In a
That's
lot of ways, I
uh,
feel like it would be helpful actually to put styles into the document, Sarah. I don't know if you know how to do that, but like part of it is like chunking it in. If we were to use the 2003 table of contents as a starter, like, here's what I'm wondering. Would it be helpful if I went through, rechunked everything, and then Sarah, you say, and then that like sort of leaves a whole bunch of stuff where you confirm if you think it should be policy, and then we can rewrite it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very helpful if you do that because if I'm trying to do what you've assigned me to do,
Yeah,
I will spend a lot of time on it, only for you to later on say, nope, that's not what I meant, you know? So I think that if you want to do the organization piece, that would be helpful.
okay. Betsy,
And
are you
I'm
willing?
happy to be helpful if I can, but at the same time, sticking with the folding in the cheese metaphor, I don't want there to be too many cooks in the kitchen, but feel free to tell me if you want me to.
No, I think it would be helpful because maybe what I'll do, what I'm thinking is, this is what I'm thinking. 2003 handbook, use that. I can drag this stuff up. There's going to be leftovers, and then we can look at those leftovers and say,
Yeah.
is this a leftover because
Yeah.
it's really
Ooh,
policy,
we're
or do
really
we?
sticking with the, are now we're gonna throw them out or put them in?
Exactly. Like, what do we, or does, should we add this? Is this a policy, or is this not
Okay.
belong anywhere? And then we can go through it from there. And then there'll be like a rewriting process, I
Right.
think, after that to really clean up, like, what do we mean and what's missing, right? And Betsy, you're going to send that norms document too.
Yes, I will. Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that could be a next step, and I'm okay with doing that. In the
Okay.
next, well, I'm presuming we're not going to meet until after Thanksgiving anyway, for sure, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. So it's like I could totally like take a crack at this during Thanksgiving, but it's not going to happen before then.
Okay, so I will wait until I get that from you. And then
Okay.
when do we think we will meet again? Do you think it'll be in the new year?
No, I think we should do it before, like sometime during December, before the new year.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't you think like we could do maybe that first week of December?
If you give me a week with a document prior to the meeting, sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's sort of shall we put a tentative pin in a time, like put a hold on a time so it doesn't get blocked by other stuff?
Yeah, that's like a month from today is December 12th.
What if we did the 5th? Or should we stick with the 12th? Both are okay with me.
I'm
12th doesn't work for me.
Okay, what about the 5th? Does that work for both of you?
works for me.
Okay. Betsy, is that okay with you?
Yep. 5th is fine.
Okay, perfect. So let's do the 5th at 3 again. And Betsy, you'll send the hold and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Yep.
And then
Cool.
just if either of you want me to do anything, you'll tell me.
Yep,
Absolutely.
that's great.
Yeah. I think it's easier once you start doing styles because then it lets you drag whole sections around like really easily and rearrange them, which might be helpful.
And to that point again, I just want to make sure that we don't spend a lot of time on a document that to then find out that the rest of our committee isn't willing to accept it. So,
Yeah.
you think that we need to, I know you said no already, so I'm asking the same question again. But is there a chance that we might want
Remember,
to-
this was something that we had agreed to as part of our goals last year. We voted this and then Andy
Okay.
just ran out of time. So this is not like some
No, I mean us-
shocking secret
I mean us
project
doing
that
it.
no one has bought into. So I'm not concerned about it from that perspective. And I did ask Andy before we got into this, like, hey, did you do anything? And he said he just didn't have time to with everything that happened last spring. So
Okay.
like, there was no like, wait, I need to be involved. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Great.
Yeah. I even said, like, do you want to come to the meeting or something? And he was like, no. So he didn't have the time to do it. So that's fine.
Great.
Okay. Cool. Thank you both so much.
Thank
Talk to you
you.
soon.
Talk
Have
to you
a good
soon.
weekend. Thank you, Betsy.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.